Hello and welcome to Noontime, a new addition to the FTN Network YouTube family of shows. I'm Ryan Noonan. We have a lot of wonderful, talented, extremely bright people here at FTN Network. They missed the mark on this one. For some reason, they thought giving me a weekly platform to talk about whatever I want, NFL, betting, DFS, PGA, NBA, best ball strategy, college hoops, draft prospects in the NBA, in the NFL, college hoops, season-long bets, whatever it is, guys. I'll have all that and more for you here on Noontime. I'll be joined by fellow FTN contributors from time to time, along with guests from outside the walls at FTN as well, trying to bring you some of the very best in their field, in the industry, to chop it up every Monday. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button here on the FTN Network YouTube page so you do not miss an episode, along with all the other great shows that are part of the FTN family of shows. If you're not familiar with all that FTN has to offer, hit us up in the comments. I can fill you in. Just know that if you're interested in anything that I mentioned above, if you're a sports fan, if you are into fantasy sports or betting, even at the smallest number, no matter what your financial stake is, I think you're going to find some interest with FTN in this channel. So go ahead and smash that subscribe button. This is definitely where you want to be. On this week's show, I'm going to take a quick look at the week that was in the NFL, week 14 slate. I'm going to take a quick look through the early NFL week 15 betting lines. And then to wrap it up, Kyrie, oh no. What is you doing, baby? But first, we're going to talk about Cleveland baseball team. Yeah, not sure if you heard this, but it sounds as though, according to the New York Times, the Cleveland former Indians will be announcing a new team name this winter. You know, obviously, trying to have some cultural sensitivity seems ideal at this time. Cleveland has moved away from the old school Chief Wahoo for the last couple of years. We obviously know what the Washington football team has done as well. So I'm interested to see, making the joke about it, but it very well could be the Cleveland baseball team for this season. All that goes into a name and trademarks and licensing and wanting to be able to have that, ready for merchandise and all those things. So they're looking to have it done this winter. Perhaps they get something done quicker and they don't have this lull that the football team experienced and they're able to get something out there before the season starts. But definitely think that is, kind of where we've been trending. It was a good move for them to get away from Chief Wahoo years ago, but to make this move official, it'll be tough, I'm sure, for people in the Cleveland area. Obviously, the team has been the Indians for over 100 years, and baseball's an old game. It's been around for a while, so times are changing. You still get your baseball team, everything's going to look the same. So again, I'm not here for woke takes around this. It just seems like the right thing to do, and it'd be interesting to see what they do there. So I'm not going to get into a lot of baseball on this show. I will when it becomes baseball season. Before the season, I'll look to have some guests that really are in that day in and day out, even in the off season. So that way we can bring you the people that know it the best. But here and there, I'll be able to give you some of the news and stuff that's going on. I just, out of the loop in baseball stuff compared to how I used to be. So I'll bring on the experts for stuff where I cannot speak intelligently for you to waste your time and listen to. So, but let's jump in here. I want to talk a little bit about our week 14, what we just saw yesterday, and very, 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 very interesting week in the NFL. We'll start with the marquee game, which I thought going into was the Kansas City Chiefs in Miami. Ended up being a pretty good one. 33-27, Chiefs get a win. So that's a Dolphins cover and an over. Really late backdoor cover by the Dolphins. We're one of those situations where they were going to need to get the field goal and a touchdown. So they kicked a field goal late to give themselves an onside kick chance to get that one. But Mahomes was not his best. And we know Miami secondary can be problematic at times, especially in the corners. But man, even to have the hiccups that they did, to have Mahomes turn the ball over like you never really see. And for the Chiefs to still get to 33, there's a kick return in here as well. This is why it was problematic for the Dolphins here. They ended up getting to 27. They just don't have a ceiling to keep up with the Chiefs, where the Chiefs can get into the low 30s even on a bad week. So in DFS, the Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill stuff got there for sure. Good game for Mike Gesicki. He got hurt in that one, so we'll need to see what happens there. The DeAndre Washington free/cheap chalk at the running back position didn't quite get there, but interesting games for these two next week. Great game for the Chiefs. They're going to be in New Orleans against the Saints. Look ahead lines had that at 3. It's moved up to 4 now. Saints obviously coming off of a bad loss. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then, looks like we're not going to have Drew Brees for that one. So you're seeing a little bit of steam early on the Chiefs. Dolphins are a big one, I guess you could say. The New England loss. They're traveling to the New England to take on the Patriots next week. All right, and then we had the Buccaneers holding on 26-14 over Minnesota. So that's a Bucs cover and an under here. Not a lot of points like we thought this one would get back and forth a little bit, but pretty good showing. It made sense. Buccaneers coming off of a bye at home late in the season, definitely to get right against a Vikings team who's a little overrated. Their defense statistically has been improving, but when you look at who they've been playing over the last few months, not a lot of great competition with, Nick Foles. They played the Panthers. They played Jacksonville. So some of that stuff was maybe inflated a little bit compared to what they actually are. Some of the studs still got there. Ronald Jones week didn't quite happen. Still got to 80 yards and 18 carries. And the passing game looked pretty good coming out of the bye too. Even in a tough matchup, Dalvin got there. He was excellent. The passing game on the Vikings side didn't quite have the runway to get off like we thought they would today. But we'll see what happens with them next game. They're home against the Bears. I think that's something worth moving on in the early market. Little overreaction there. I'll talk about that in a moment. All right, the next one has the Cardinals. They got a nice win against the Giants on the road. Giants come in hot, having won 4 straight, kind of controlling their own destiny in the NFC East. Stumbled here a little bit. Daniel Jones back in the lineup, though, did not look like himself. Or though maybe he did, right? We don't really know, I guess. Daniel Jones really hasn't taken that next step this year. Held to 127 yards, didn't look really mobile, and was really problematic. Arizona's defense had a field day and, sacked him 6 times. He was limping around out there. Was not a great showing for the Giants. Decent showing for Kyler. We've been dealing with lots of questions about the Cardinals, and really, do they have the ceiling that they showed early in the season? Kyler wasn't running last few weeks. Kyler wasn't really taking chances down the field. He didn't really have to here, but had a solid game and, getting a big win here, really, cementing themselves as a playoff team here down the stretch, kind of controlling their destiny as well. Then we had the Bears with a big win at home against the Texans. Apparently, Deshaun Watson cannot do it all by himself. Kind of a late surprise scratch here with Brandon Cooks being out of the lineup. Obviously, we know with the suspension to Will Fuller, this Texans offense, which has really been incredible, one of really the best 5 offenses in the league, especially from the passing standpoint, since Bill O'Brien was fired back in week 4, week 5. And, Watson just couldn't do it all by himself today. Was really running out created players at the position. And even though the Bears are, they came in having lost 6 straights, not getting any pressure, depleted secondary, hadn't been really playing well. They were able to show up here. And there definitely is something to be said for Trubisky, what he can bring to this offense. Another really nice day, 267, 3 scores. Again, this Texans defense does not put up much of a fight, but there is definitely a ceiling with this Bears offense that wasn't there with Nick Foles under center. So good for Chicago. They got a big one in the division against the Vikings next week. Next was the Broncos getting a win on the road against the Panthers here. This was it's an over and a cover here on the dog side for the Broncos. We had a lot of questions coming into this one, lots of injuries, and we see sometimes these Drew Lock games where there is obviously talent and you understand why he was drafted, in the first round, but he is just not consistent in taking those steps. I mean, they entered play 32nd offensively in DVOA. I mean, think about that. We have, the aforementioned Bears, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Washington football team. We have some offenses that really leave a lot to be desired. And Denver, for all of the talent on that team, I think because of the quarterback play, 32nd in offensive DVOA, though, showed up in a big way here today. Carolina's defense has been struggling, continued here. Again, nice day for Drew Lock. Panthers were not able to get it done. Again, coming off of a bye at home, this is a game they really probably should have won. At the same time, this is not really a playoff team, so it's not like they, really let anyone down but by themselves. Not a great day for Teddy. Tried to do a little bit on his own, and it didn't really work out for him there. So tough one next week on the road against Green Bay as well. Jags continue to cover almost every week. They did not do that today. They got just lambasted by the Titans in a big way. Tennessee here, 31-10. It's an under in a Tennessee cover. Was big dog. Derrick Henry got it done, 215, 2 scores. Titans needed this one. Obviously, couple stubbing of their toe of late. The AFC South is getting tight. Playoff standings are getting tight, and we're really at that spot of the year. Tennessee could not go down to Florida and mess around here, and they came out big early and really looked good. On the Jacksonville side, I'm not sure if it was an injury. I hadn't heard, but we did see Gardner Minshew return, and they just didn't have anything going here. Minshew makes them maybe a little bit more exciting moving forward. Tough day for Mike Glennon and company in Jacksonville. Red Rifle revenge happened in a big, big way. Cowboys 30-7 over the Bengals. That is an under and a solid Dallas cover here. Dalton was good. The Dallas defense was opportunistic, took advantage of some turnovers early in that game. I had the Cowboys team total here. It was one of my favorite plays of the week. Came in nicely, so they waited until the fourth quarter to get over. Dallas still has enough talent to be able to take on a team like Cincinnati, who just, without Burrow, is just really struggling. And, the quarterback position is a massive, massive black hole there, and they can't make up for it with all their playmakers. They really need more there. So they're going to be a team to just continue to short down the stretch, team to take their team under. Again, if getting 7 against Dallas just kind of tells you where the Bengals are at currently. So tough sledding for them. We don't need to unpack all that happened in the Indy Vegas game, but that is a massive, massive over. Indy basically almost getting there by themselves and a cover there on the road. Big win for the Colts. They needed that and showed up in a big way. It was really great spot for Jonathan Taylor. Everyone's been begging for him to get more work consistently. Still, at times in that game, you're seeing, Nyheim Hines in the red zone, getting those, opportunistic touches that we like in fantasy and DFS. Taylor basically went 100 yards over his rushing prop today. His rushing prop was hung at 52.5. It was, 150 yards for Taylor. So pretty good. Guessing we'll probably see that hung in the 60s, maybe next week, hopefully higher, because, 60s again will be an easy over. He's playing the Texans next week. So could be a good one there. All right, Seattle handled business 40-3 against the Jets. That is an under, and definitely a strong cover. This one got a lot of steam. This was like 13.5 all week. It was close to 17 by the time this one kicked off. Lots of injuries on the Jets side. They're just the Jets. Not going to waste time. Russ looked good. Only took 206 passing yards. Did throw for 4 scores, though. That got it done. Jamal Adams, obviously, getting his revenge. I have a hard time with these revenge games where these dudes really haven't done anything yet. I get that Jamal Adams is good at his job for the most part, but does he really deserve all this attention for a revenge game? I don't know. We're not talking about necessarily someone that we're comfortable saying is a future Hall of Famer yet. But yeah, it fills pages, gets clicks, and I guess it just doesn't this doesn't always make the sense to me, but it is what it is. Big win for Seattle there. They needed that one, obviously, and the Jets need to continue to lose because they definitely need the top pick in the draft to get themselves out of where they are currently. Washington, third road game in a row, goes to Arizona. to take on the Niners and wins in a surprising fashion. I thought that was a good spot for the Niners as we got closer to the week. Again, 3 games on the road in a row is a lot for a football team to handle. And Washington did just that. I mean, on the defensive side, Chase Young just really dominant. Obviously an incredible scoop and score. Had a sack in there, forced another fumble, knocked down a couple passes. This Washington team is tough and frisky, and now controls their own path here to win this division. And they are feisty. If they maybe can get Alex Smith back, he did not finish this one. He got something going on with the leg. The leg that he had surgery on. Dwayne Haskins reminded us all why he is on the bench for the last couple of months. Tried to throw that one away through a really bad interception in basically from the end zone late in that game to give San Francisco a fighting chance. But big win for them. And Niners, just tough season. They've dealt with so many injuries. They were barely hanging on to a very slim chance to make the playoffs at this point. But Shanahan can do a lot, but you can't really make up for all the Nick Mullins' faults, and probably wraps it up for the Niners here. Green Bay got backdoored here, 31-24. Lions covered here. This is an over push as well. It's mostly 55 out there. I'm not sure quite where your book landed, but probably could have been a half points either way. But again, great game for Devontae Adams. The Lions continue to be feisty, even though they don't have anyone to play defense really. No Kenny Golladay. Stafford got dinged up in this one, so not a great showing from the Packers. They really should have dominated this one and put it away early, but allowed them to come in the back door. Tough beat for Packers bettors. Also, tough spot if you like the Saints just to go in and get a win against the Eagles on the money line. They did not. The Eagles 24-21, massive win for Jalen Hurts in his debut. Again, 3 games in a row for the Saints, and it bit him here. Definitely a combination of 3 in a row with the Chiefs on deck in week 15. They got caught looking ahead, I think. And, even though they had 5 days to plan for Hurts and his running style, he was very, very efficient on the ground and extended plays and, made enough plays through the air to be able to lock this one up against the Saints team who came in as the number 1 seed in the NFC. So that's a bad loss for them. It kind of gives the Packers the ability to control that number 1 seed. And this season, we have 7 playoff teams. We just have the number 1 seed in each conference getting a bye. So that 1 seed is even more important this year than it is in season past. So really bad loss for the Saints, especially with the Chiefs on deck here. Obviously, I think we're going to see Wentz. We're going to see Hurts instead of Wentz for the remainder of the season here. Be interesting to see what happens against lesser competition. This is a tough matchup, one of the best defenses in the league. And, Hurts wasn't great, but he got a win, and that's enough for him this week. All right. The, combination of the Spider-Man meme on the football field, incredible tweet by the Falcons social media people. Chargers beat the Falcons 20-17. It is a Chargers cover and an under. These two teams find creative ways to lose football games every week. They tried both in the last couple of minutes with turnovers and going back and forth was really indicative of what you would expect from a Chargers and Falcons game. So we continue to see the Falcons just not perform well at all without Julio Jones in the lineup. No surprise. We've also seen games this season when Calvin Ridley's not in the lineup. They just do not have the ceiling offensively that we think. Defense continues to play better. They've been much improved since they made the coaching change, and Raheem Morris has been in charge here. Good win for the Chargers. They needed to take care of business here. They didn't look great doing so, but a win is a win. Hard to argue with that. All right, let's take a quick look and run through some of the stuff that's happened in the look-ahead market. So I write a look-ahead piece for FTN Bets. It's free. So basically, there's a little window that opens up before the next week, typically on Thursdays. So thinking this past Thursday, these week 15 lines get posted, and you can bet on them. And it is nice to get a little feel for how teams are valued before were infected by whatever just happened this past Sunday, right? So these lines are set, and it's a good understanding of how do things shift from what we just saw to what the line's going to be for the next week. So the look ahead, we can get in pure. We can get in before we know anything. And then we see, on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning, we see how the lines come out the next week after things have been shaped. So when you're betting on these, it's almost like a parlay. I know that, Benny does some good stuff here. There's lots of good content and smart people here at FTN talking about the stuff. So it's really important. It is getting in. You always want to get the best of the number. We talk about closing line value all the time. It does not guarantee you a win. I promise you. I wish it did. But you always want to position yourself to try to get the best of the number. And sometimes that involves acting early as possible. It's tough in the land of COVID, where we could be betting on a team who come Tuesday, come Wednesday is without their quarterback because of COVID. So I understand the reluctancy to get really heavy in the early market, but knowing where things are trending, knowing where they were in the look aheads, knowing where they are when they open, you can start to see why it would benefit you to try to at least take maybe small stances early. If you don't like it, and give yourself opportunities to buy out of it when the number moves, or if it moves against you in an instance where something happens, like the injury that we're talking about. So definitely take a look at this. I'm going to run through a little bit about, show you what happened here last week as we move into the look aheads here. So, all right. So this is an early look at our look ahead stuff. So we see here, we have the first game there is Chargers and Raiders. Look aheads are tough. So you want to, don't really have much on the Chargers or Raiders. I think that's probably fair. You can see the Broncos and Bills there. Bills with a big win on Sunday night, locking up the Steelers there. Denver, that might be really one of the only places that a true home field advantage still exists. No fans, but obviously playing at altitude is a thing. I am surprised that this is hung back out there at 5.5. This is where it was in the look ahead market. I'm guessing that this gets steamed pretty quickly to 6 and maybe even 7. The Broncos, maybe because, again, the Broncos had a big win on the road. This Bills team, though, can't mess around. They need these playoff seeding, need to get this win. I'll be interested to see what this one does. Mentioned earlier, tough spot for the Panthers, losing last week or yesterday to the Broncos, facing Aaron Rodgers and the Packers here. Panthers entered play in week 14, 28th in EPA per drop back over the past 6 weeks. Obviously not a great spot when you're facing Aaron Rodgers and company. Definitely don't want to be there. Mentioned the Vikings. The Vikings were 6-point favorites against the Bears in the look aheads. Vikings obviously lost. Chicago got a win, and this is down to 4. I think that is a overreaction. I think there is some definite value to be had on Minnesota, as you can see here, down even to 3.5 now. And I don't think that Minnesota is a very good football team. I don't think the Bears are either. And, playing this one in Minnesota, I just think Minnesota's going to be able to do whatever they want to do. Again, Bears continue to struggle, not getting pressure, bottom 4 in pressure rate heading into the week. And their secondary is just not that good, not good enough to support a front 7 that's not getting any pressure on the quarterback at all. We just saw Houston and Indy meet 2 weeks ago. This will be their second meeting in 3 weeks, and back-to-back road games for the Texans. Obviously not looking good coming off of that tough game against the Bears. Really, really, really tough scene for them there. I think this one gets steamed up quite a bit here. And I think you'll see some movement on that one. All right, we're going to shift here. Let me give you another look at the rest of the lines. Technical difficulties, not even technical difficulties. I'm doing this all myself for you guys. So we're going to bring you the rest of the games, hopefully. All right. We got the Patriots and Dolphins. Yeah, that one, that's interesting. Obviously the Pats looked pretty terrible the other night, Thursday night. Miami hung there a little bit. Pat's getting some love here, though. Looks like, having them be less than 3, that's giving the Patriots some love here. So I think you could see some movement. San Francisco and Dallas is an interesting one. Really nothing to play for, but obviously always a good matchup. Seattle and Washington getting home for the first time in quite a while. Love to see that, get that home cooking. Again, they got an easy schedule after this. I think they just play Carolina and then I think someone else in the division. But, obviously this one against Seattle is going to be an interesting one. See if they can do anything with that one. I mentioned the Chiefs and New Orleans. I mean, possible Super Bowl preview. Again, we don't know the status of Drew Brees without Drew Brees in this one. I just don't know if there's the firepower on the side for the Saints to get this done, if it's just going to be Taysom Hill and company. So really, really interested to see what happens there. A couple of running quarterbacks with Philadelphia and Arizona. Got some line movement on that as well. Obviously coming in on Philly's side since they had a nice win against the Saints there. So pretty interesting. The other games still waiting on Cleveland. Obviously they're playing on Monday nights. We don't have a lot of information on them currently. All right. So, like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of things. And I love the NBA, and we are almost there. We have preseason NBA stuff happening. It is glorious. It is finally here. I feel bad for these guys, especially some of the guys that were just in the bubble. They literally were just there not very long ago. And there's some teams that are chomping at the bit, have not been playing basketball for a while, and some injuries, of course, mostly dealing with some of the guys on the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving, who we got a little taste of last year. And then we haven't seen Kevin Durant in a Nets jersey yet. And got a little taste of that on Sunday evening in the preseason action. But really want to talk to you guys about Kyrie. If you have not heard, Kyrie had, he's Kyrie. I don't even know what to say. He's definitely, I'm a Celtics fan, experienced the Kyrie thing. And it was basically, it's really hard to describe. It was this basically the whole time. What is you doing, baby? What is you doing? He doesn't want to talk to the media. I think Kyrie's a really smart guy, and I think that he's well-intentioned. I think that he means well. I just don't know that he knows what he wants to do. Not talking to the media is just not a good look. You're going to get fines, and it's just not great. It's not really how you want to be as a leader. And I think he's just better than that. This was his IG statement. If you hadn't seen this, he came out and mentioned that this used a Malcolm X quote, and then just basically said, hopefully the money can be used for something good, and I'm not a pawn, and basically my time is more valuable than yours if you're interviewing me. And I mean, for real, Kyrie, like, for real, why? Like, what's the point? Like, what are we doing? I just don't, who's that help? I don't know. So there's a fine. I'd be interested to see what the NBA does if they continue on and find him consistently. While he was on his IG story, he was, putting in his 2 cents, for, what he wanted to do. He's actually talking with KD, which is a very interesting conversation. He got a little help from none other than Dame Dollar. Came in here. Damian Lillard, you love to see Dame always chiming in, telling Kyrie to do your media sessions. It's because Dame gets it. It's just not a good look. And, Kyrie has a platform, and if he wants to share knowledge and information and wants to lift up his community or anything like that, like, just do it. Take advantage of your platform. Talk to the media. Own what you're talking about and share however you want. But just to not talk is, I don't know. He's better than that. It's very disappointing. And I just wish that the conversation was very different. So it'll be interesting to see if he continues to do this all season long. I don't know. He's got a great teammate and also an emotional teammate. These two together are, I don't know. It could be a lot. There could be a lot of feelings. There could be a lot of emotions. And they had a nice, interesting, and it was cool. It was cool to be behind the scenes of having their IG live and they're talking. And Kyrie is basically talking to Kevin. I used to be you. When I was younger, and I used to be like you. Basically, it was, again, I don't know the nature of their friendship, but it felt like he was talking down to him. Like, I used to be where you are mentally, and now I'm on a different level mentally. And here's where I'm at. And here is why you need to feed me 7 times per game in the post. It was a literal conversation that they had, that they need to be working Kyrie in the post, because every time Kyrie gets the ball working out of the post, high post, low post, he's at a disadvantage, or he's an advantage. There's a mismatch on him. His opponent's at a disadvantage, which is wild. And I love the confidence, and Kyrie is incredible. It is really hard to watch Kyrie play basketball and not be a fan of the on-court game. I'm just going to be really interested to the dynamic going on with the Nets. These are two of the best players in the world, assuming that KD is even 90% of what he was pre-Achilles, which is tough, especially in basketball. Achilles is just, we see the lift, we see, the quickness a little bit. Durant's really taken a next step defensively, even at times as a rim protector. He filled that role really well at times for Golden State. I know that he doesn't necessarily have to fill that role for Brooklyn, but his presence defensively could be very impactful for them this season. So very interested to see what happens with Brooklyn this season if Kyrie continues to play these games, this nonsense. And it's going to be an interesting NBA season, man. I mean, the Lakers are loaded, absolutely loaded. The Clippers are running it back, and they'll be pretty good too for the most part. The East is going to be wild. Brooklyn is in there. Celtics, early season injuries have, Kemba not full go to start the season. Probably won't see him until January at the earliest. Didn't do a lot specifically to replace Gordon Hayward, but again, leaning heavily on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. There's some question marks on the depth on that team and their bench. I do think that some of their bench pieces are better than last year, but we'll see. They got a lot of young guys between draft picks last season and this season. They need to step up. The Miami Heat are going to be really viable again in the mix. The East is going to be really good. So cannot wait to talk NBA. We'll have some folks here from FTN to talk NBA with me as the season moves along, because it's just the best. And we got a lot of bright NBA minds here too. Definitely want to share that with you guys here. One piece of information that I think is really interesting is LaMelo Ball is priced at plus 400 in the Rookie of the Year market over on DraftKings. And, we haven't seen hoops in a little bit, and hopefully we have as much of the season as we can have, COVID pending. So I don't love futures. It's kind of like what we talked about looking at look-ahead lines. It's really hard to act at some of these things and speculate down the road too far, because we're still in the middle of a global, definitely national pandemic. And it's a limited season as is, truncated 72-game season. Rookies obviously did not have any summer league or very, very limited, preseason action. But there's a lot of reasons that LaMelo Ball works and is still a really good price, even though he's the shortest price on the board. Kind of the way that this award works very often is, some of the counting stats, looking at points and rebounds and assists and things like that. literally just some of the basic stuff is what those types of voters are looking for. And bring up the screen here for you so we can take a look at what those odds look like. LaMelo is the shortest on the board, and I get it. You see Anthony Edwards up there as well. Killian Hayes drafted a little bit later by Detroit, and Obi Toppin. So these guys kind of check the box. So Ball's going to have the ball in his hands. He is going to be counted on for his team to be a distributor. He continues to grow. He has a lot, physically, like growing, like he's getting taller. I think he'll be able to rebound his position fairly well. And they'll run a lot of offense through him. You can slide some of the other pieces there, with Devontae Graham and Malik Monk, some of the other, guards and wings can kind of get to their natural position, and they can really run through Melo. And I think he'll be positioned to accumulate a lot of the stats that we want here. Definitely more than a guy like Edwards, for instance. Killian Hayes being short priced as well at 6-1. Similar spot. I think you're going to see, limited Derrick Rose. I think they're going to limit his minutes before they even trade him, which seems inevitable as well. So, Hayes can compile some counting stats. You could have the ball in his hands for, a pretty good amount of, say, his 25 to 28 minutes a game with decent usage numbers. So he could get there too. And Obi Toppin, we don't know where he'll fit in the rotation. Very interesting with a guy like this with new coach for the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau. Toppin not known for his defense at the college level. Can he play and have enough playing time to be able to accumulate the points and rebounds that I think he even profiles for early on? It is funny that he is like older than 4 or 5 of the other guys on the team that have been there for a couple of years. It's, an older entry, and, get some of the really young guys going on the Knicks. So, Toppin is a rookie by experience, but not by age per se. But I just think LaMelo offers some value at this price because I think he's going to have significantly more opportunity than Hayes. I think Edwards is way overvalued here. Same thing with a guy like James Wiseman. And then you start getting down the board a little bit where, a lot of these guys aren't going to be able to make the impact, especially because rookies aren't going to have the runway here to get up to speed quite a bit. So Bull is interesting at 25-1. But again, we're talking about a team that was in the Western Conference Finals last year who still has one of the best big men in the league, some other size. I think you'll see more Bull for the Nuggets this year. Are you going to see enough where he's able to make an impact to the degree in which he is a Rookie of the Year candidate? I'm not quite sure. Probably my favorite down the board option, I think I would say. But again, tough to compare with what we're going to see going on with LaMelo. I just think he's going to play pretty well. The highlights, everyone's like never seen a behind the back pass before, oohing and eyeing. It's been a tough year. It's been a tough 9 months. I'm not going to poo-poo on anyone getting all hyped up over a behind the back pass or, a quick outlet pass down the sideline like LaMelo did. He's special with the ball. He obviously has a vision, see if he can shoot, see if he can defend. But again, he's going to have the ball in his hands. His usage is going to be high. I think you're going to see some counting stats for him. All right, wrapping it up. We got one college game of note, pretty good one on Saturday for the NCAA hoops. Number 1 Gonzaga on the road against Iowa, 2 of the top 3 teams in college hoops. College hoops has been kind of a wild ride so far with different cancellations, and you really want to see that Gonzaga and Baylor game a couple weeks ago. But that was number 1 versus number 2. Baylor's really kind of still been reeling with COVID issues since then, and Gonzaga had him that day. So be interested to see what happens. Similar to college football, we have some teams who played twice as many games as other teams, and we're trying to fit together some sort of ranking and playoff system that's fair. Hopefully something happens with college hoops. Maybe we can just get to the place where we can play at tournaments, which would be fantastic for this year. Hopefully we can have everything back to normal next year as far as that goes. But this should be a good one on Saturday. Iowa's tough, obviously, with Garza in the middle. Gonzaga's got all sorts of scoring and pace and size and speed. They're a lot of fun to watch. So hopefully we get that one on Saturday. It all goes off without a hitch. So I think this went off without a hitch for the most part. I appreciate you checking this out. We'll be back next week to do it again. again, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Noonan. You can find work at FTN Bets, FTN Daily, FTN Fantasy. We have a lot of worthwhile things that I think you will really enjoy. If you are not familiar, definitely check out FTN Network. Again, drop us a comment. Would love to be able to walk you through what we have to offer. And I will be back to do it all again next week. So thanks for stopping by.